Reading broke my little heart. I cried on the street, y'all. But I'm now an 8.5 achiever 2 times with perfect reading scores, so everything's good. And truth be told, there was only one thing that made the difference. What is it, you may ask? To set the scene, I was on my way to tutor a student. I was working as an English tutor for a 6th grader back then. 6 months earlier, I had just taken the IELTS test for the first time and got a 7.5 overall. I was on the process of retaking the test, hoping to get an 8. So for listening and reading, my goal was pretty simple: getting as close to a perfect score as possible. I had just gotten back from a mock test that I had with my friends that I was preparing to take the IELTS test with, and I got a pretty bad band score, a 20-something on that mock test. And mind you, my goal was getting as close to a perfect score as possible. So a 20-something was not nearly enough. I was feeling so frustrated with myself and how not only was I not improving, I seemed to be regressing. I was driving on my way to teach my student. That thought had just been lingering around my mind, like, you're not enough, you're doing something wrong, something is wrong with your brain. Why are all of your friends getting the desired band score and you just can't seem to get it? Yeah, it was not fun. The frustration was so bad that I had to stop driving, and I was just crying on the side of the road while people were driving by and staring at me, wondering who broke his heart, not knowing that it was a reading test. It was a really sad time for me, and it went on for a while. I eventually took the test again and only got an 8.0 in reading, which is not too bad. Still, it wasn't what I was aiming for, and I was really disappointed in myself. However, one thing changed, and that led to me eventually surpassing that threshold and getting an 8.5, then a 9 in reading. So what happened? How did I overcome that plateauing period? I'm not gonna talk about all the tactics that you can use in each question type in the reading test. Also, I'm not gonna discuss how you can prioritize doing some certain types over other types and time management and all that kind of stuff. I know that it's important and you definitely should know that. I knew that as well back then. But still, I was struggling. I was not getting it the way that I wanted to. Something felt iffy about doing the reading test for me. After a lot of slowing down and thinking, the answer actually is quite simple. I was treating it as an enemy all along. Whenever I looked at a reading test, I would think to myself, you're bad. You're the bad guy. You're here to get me. You're waiting for me to slip. And then, you trick me and fool me and laugh at my mistake. Dramatic, I know, but that was genuinely what was going on in my head. Whenever I would start to do a reading test, I was not treating it like actual words and sentences and paragraphs that someone wrote to convey something to me, the reader. To me, it was more like someone challenged me. I felt attacked personally, and that's why I always felt the need to get all tensed and armed up. Every single time that opponent approaches, I would be in defense mode. I was not welcoming the reading test with open arms. The relationship between me and the test was toxic. And even though I was doing so many practice tests one after another, I did not allow myself the time to reflect and to let things marinate in my brain. A lot of exposure, but not enough time for things to click. Eventually, something needed to change, so I'm gonna talk about it right now. I don't exactly know when this happened, but at one point, a flip switched in my brain, and I realized a simple, outright duh kind of fact. The reading passage was never actually trying to get me. It was me who was projecting onto the reading passage. I was the problem. It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. I needed to change my way of thinking. I started to not see it as an enemy anymore, and I tried to be friends with it. What this means is I started to care more about what it has to say, and I became curious and eager to learn what it has to tell me. I was becoming more intrigued by the content that the reading passage has to offer. I felt like I was doing research on a scientific topic of my interest. That was when things started to flow more naturally, and the relationship became less toxic. And I also have to mention that this is coupled with the fact that I was not under pressure anymore. I was not stressed out over having to take the IELTS test again anytime soon or having to score perfectly anymore. I was not even doing practice tests that much anymore or at all. I was just genuinely excited to learn every single time I get a reading passage. Something else that also happened during this time was I stopped being defensive whenever I would compare my answers to the correct answers. I used to be so... what is the word? Stubborn. Okay. I used to be so stubborn and I would just refuse to believe that the correct answer would be that instead of what I thought it was. Instead of finding a way to connect the dots and understand the logic behind the answer, I was adamant in my answer, in my logic. And no, it didn't help at all. So I stopped doing that and started to see the pattern. Whenever I would look at a question and the correct answer accordingly, I would try to make up a pattern that I can register in my brain and bring that pattern over to the next test that I would do. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well or not, but yeah, that's what happens in my brain. So after a while, I felt like I was confident enough and I eventually did a reading practice test again. Maybe after like a year and a half, I was shocked at how well I did. I did not fear it anymore. I did not feel like I needed to defend myself or that I needed to fight. It was very smooth sailing and the toxic relationship that we had for the longest time officially ended the day that I did that practice test. What is the moral of the story here? If you are trying to score better at the reading session of the IELTS test, or really just trying to be a better reader, be friends with it. Sounds like something simple, but I did not come to that realization for many years. And I have said this before and I'll say it again. Give yourself time to grow. You would not expect a tree to grow overnight, so the same applies to you as well. And I know that this may not be the secret sauce for everyone. There are definitely people out there who don't really need a relationship with their reading passage ever. I guess it's just my brain being my brain, but I still want to share this because who knows, maybe this will help someone out there. And if you find yourself in that situation, consider this as encouragement. I just want to let you know that as long as you don't give up and treat it as a friend instead of an enemy, the reading passage is not out here to get you. You can get it instead. Hopefully you find this helpful, and if you did, please leave me a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Leave me a comment if you want to share your own story. Share this video with whoever you think might find this helpful. I'll be back very soon with more videos talking about things that I've learned on this journey that I'm still on. I'm still learning, still going through the motion, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.